the chicken. She always comes over every time I come in here. So for today's class, you're going to need your pillow, matching blocks, belt, a nice clear area on the floor. We are going to start standing up. So take a great big inhale, take your arms up and overhead, reach for the sky, spread your fingers, spread your toes, start to shift your weight side to side, reach and stretch. And reach and stretch. And then eventually you might find yourself hooking your thumbs together as you reach and stretch and shift your weight side to side. Spread your fingers, spread your toes, wiggle your jaw, wiggle your nose, work up a good yawn or two. And then come to neutral, release your arms down by your sides. With your palms turned forward, take a great big shoulder shrug, inhale up. Exhale back and down. Keep your palms turned forward as you repeat. Shoulder shrug, inhale up. Exhale back and down. One more time, great big shoulder shrug and a great big yawn. Inhale up. And exhale, shoulder shrug back and down. Grow your fingernails all the way down towards the ground. Spread your toes out. Lift up tall through the crown of your head. And take some nice deep chesty breaths. And with your feet apart and your knees soft, make soft fist out of your hands. Keeping your knees unlocked, feel free to unstick your heels from the ground. We're going to start with a little qigong twist. So with your soft fist, you're going to be striking your chest and the back bottom ribs, that bra band area. So beating your chest like a gorilla, letting your arms swing. Again, please unstick your heels as you do this. Let your whole body twist. Continue taking those deep breaths. This little qigong exercise is said to help loosen the phlegm in your lungs so you can cough up whatever you might have stuck in there. Also helps stimulate the adrenal glands, which rest atop your kidneys with those back bottom rib area. Help get the adrenaline flowing, wake you up, get you breathing. So these are just soft fists and your arms are mostly just swinging. And then slow it down. And give yourself a great big hug. Wrapping up nice and tight. Drop your shoulders away from your ears. Get your fingers down below your armpits. Knees unlocked, toes are spread. Leaning into, breathing into those back bottom ribs. Maybe tick-tocking your head side to side, getting your shoulders to drop away from your ears. Knees are bent, belly is pulled in, and you're rounding your back, breathing into those back ribs. Nice deep breaths. And release. Notice the cross of your arms and recross with the other arm on top. Give yourself a great big hug. Thank yourself for getting out of bed this morning, putting on your yoga clothes, turning on your screen, doing some stretching, some deep breathing, checking in with yourself. Give yourself a great big hug. Big hugs, deep breaths. And with an inhale, open sesame. Big inhale, up and overhead. And exhale, bring your arms behind your back, clasping your hands together. Shoulder shrug, inhale up, exhale back and down. As you skid your thumbs down, your tailbone, squeeze your shoulder blades together. Begin to pull your elbows away from your back. So pulling your elbows away from your back, hopefully you won't lock out those elbows and hyperextend them. So keeping a soft bend in the elbows, pull your elbows away from your back more than your hands. Head's on level and straight, belly pulled in, knees are unlocked. Big chesty breaths. Now for this next one, I'm going to turn my back to you so that we're all doing the same side. Go ahead and release. Locate your right arm, raise your hand. Palm is going to turn forward, face forward. You're going to take that right shoulder, shrug it up, back, and down. And your challenge, if you choose to accept it, is pull that right shoulder blade down your back. The harder you anchor that right shoulder blade down, the more effective this stretch will be. You're going to turn to look towards your left, and then tuck your chin down into your left armpit. Pulling that right shoulder blade down your back, tucking your chin into your left armpit, knees unlocked, belly pulled in. If you want more intensity, you can take that left hand up and over to the back corner of your skull and tuck that chin deep into your left armpit. Keep pulling that right shoulder blade down your back. Feeling that upper trapezius, that neck stretch. And then slowly release. Maybe put your head back on straight and release that arm. Second verse, same as the first. Big inhale, both arms up and overhead. As you exhale, bend your elbows. Left shoulder blade slides down your back. So do that shoulder shrug up, back, and down. Slide that left shoulder blade down your back. Turn to the right. Tuck your chin into your right armpit. And if it works for you, you can bring that right hand up and overhead to add more intensity to that stretch. Pulling that left shoulder blade down your back. Breathing. And then release, putting your head back up on straight. Big inhale, both arms up and overhead. And exhale, release. Take that right arm behind your back, pull it across, hold it in place, palm to palm. Shoulders drop down and away from your ears. And your head falls over towards that left shoulder. Feeling a slightly different area on the right side of your neck. Receive the stretch. Both shoulders are down away from your ears. Head is falling to the left towards your hands. And you can nod your head. Nodding your head. And then turn to look down into that left armpit. Drag your chin across the midline of your chest. Clasp your hands together. Squeeze your shoulder blades together and put your head on straight. Second verse, same as the first. Big inhale, both arms up and overhead. Exhale, press all the breath out. Left arm, palm faces outward. Pull it across. Hold it in place, palm to palm. Let your head fall over to the right, towards your hands. Shoulders are down away from your ears. And nod your head. And then turn to look down into that right armpit. Clasp your hands together as you bring your chin towards midline. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. And again, pull those elbows away from your back, putting your head on straight. And release. Big inhale, both arms up and overhead. And exhale, hands come onto your hips. With hands on your hips, do a shoulder shrug up, back and down. You're doing your best Wonder Woman stance here. So knees are unlocked, feet are apart, you're standing tall, chest is lifted. And just like Wonder Woman wearing a spandex suit, pull that tummy in. Keep your knees soft, your lower back long, tummy pulled in. Lift your ribs out of your hips. So pull those ribs up out of your hips. You might even wiggle a little side to side. Try to separate the ribs from your hips and then release. Now we're going to get fancy with it. You're going to take a great big inhale, and as you inhale, lift those ribs up, stretch up, pull out of those hips, and then drop it. Okay. You're going to get even fancier. Again, inhale, stretch, lift up, pull up, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And then as you exhale, drop. Now we're going to do something a little un-Wonder Woman-like. We're going to let our belly relax. So you're going to prepare with an inhale, big inhale. This time, all the breath out. When you are empty of breath and there's no more breath in your body, close your throat. Don't let any breath in. And then lift your ribs up as if you were inhaling. Engage those muscles as if you were taking a breath in. But when you're doing that, your breath is out and your throat is closed. No breath is coming in. And then when you must inhale, because you're going to have to eventually, relax your tummy first and then inhale. So I can't obviously do it and talk at the same time, but let's do it together. And I'll describe it again if necessary. Big inhale, prepare. All the breath out. Close your throat. The important part is to relax that tummy first and then inhale. Otherwise, you will get a cramp. Big inhale, all the breath in, all the breath out. Close your throat, lift your ribs out of your hips. Relax your tummy, then inhale. 2 more just like that. All the breath out. Knee is unlocked. Big inhale. All the breath out. Close your throat. Lift up. Relax that tummy and inhale. Builds the heat. All right, big inhale, both arms up and overhead. And exhale, release. You're gonna take your feet wide apart now. So if you have more than one yoga mat, I recommend setting them up so that you can move from one mat to the next without having to constantly shift your position around. Take your feet wide and do make sure both feet are on the same mat. You only have one foot on the mat can slide. Let your right knee bend. All 10 toes are pointing to the right. Let your right knee bend and put your right elbow on your lap. Left arm dangles. Back is rounded. Push into that bottom elbow. Pull your heart, pull your belly up into your body. But let that left arm fall. Let that left arm dangle, pull out a socket. And it just circles around. Once you got the stance settled in, your toes are relaxed, your feet are solidly anchored, we can play around with this a little bit more. Let's synchronize breath with movement. Let's start tick-tocking that arm like a pendulum. And with an inhale, you're going to sweep out and up. And as you exhale, release. Inhale, stretch and reach. And exhale, drop. Using that elbow on your lap to get a little bit more stretch, a little bit more reach. And release. Inhale, stretch. And release. Inhaling, stretching. And releasing. How about 2 more, just like that? Big inhale, big stretch. And release. And 1 more time. Big stretch, 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 stretch. And release. This time with a great big inhale, come all the way up. Windmill, air guitar, come all the way up to standing. And go to the other side. Turn all 10 toes to the left. Put your left elbow on your lap. Feel a nice, solid, secure base here. And let that right arm dangle for a moment. As you do this, letting that arm dangle, do pay attention to what's going on with your feet. You can actually have a look down at that left foot and do make sure you still have an arch in the foot. Maybe turn that left knee to the left a little bit. You can steer the knee with your elbow so that you maintain an arch in that foot. And then let's start tick-tocking. Swinging that arm like a pendulum. And getting even fancier with it. Synchronizing breath with movement. Inhaling, stretch. Exhale, drop. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, drop. Keep breathing, keep stretching. Keep moving. And use that anchoring elbow on the knee to steer the knee wide and lift your chest up a little bit more. How about 2 more breaths? Big stretch and drop. Big stretch. And drop. And big air guitar windmill all the way up to standing. Now with your feet nice and wide, let's turn all 10 toes out like a ballerina. And as soon as you do that, you got to bend your knees. Otherwise you lose your balance. Big inhale, arms up. And as you exhale, drop down into what is known as sunflower, kind of like a grand plie sumo squat, toes turned out. Big inhale, reach up. And exhale, have a seat. Shoulder blades down your back. Big inhale, reach up. Shoulder blades pull down your back, neck is nice and long. Inhale up. And exhale, squat. Knees turned out as if you had an extra set of hands, turning those knees out to the side, steering those knees wide. Inhale up. You have arches in both feet. You're able to wiggle your toes. One more time, big inhale all the way up. And exhale, drop it like it's hot. Belly pulled in. And let's come all the way up. Hands come to your hips, your thighs, turn your toes in. Bend your knees slightly as you hinge over, come into that forward fold. Hands come on down to the ground or onto blocks. As you find yourself in this forward fold, keep your knees unlocked, toes turned in, heels turned out, and let those sit bones blossom like a flower. Head hangs. Now, balance permitting, you have the option of taking your hands behind your back, clasping your hands together, and pressing knuckles up towards the sky. Gravity will help pull those arms away from your back a little bit more. Be conscious of what's going on with your joints. Keep your elbows unlocked. Hands come to your hips, knees bend, round your back, hands on your lap as you inhale, round your back, come all the way up to standing. And take a moment to step your feet together. Might shake out a leg or two. Now, when you come into that forward fold, there's a lot going on. So do keep breathing. One way to keep your elbows from hyperextending is to clasp your hands together really hard, white knuckle death grip. You're trying to make a lump of coal into a diamond in the palms of your hands. So we're going to repeat, taking those feet wide apart. And if you're one of those people who have elbows that hyperextend, lock out, and bend backwards, consider clasping your hands together, rock hard to keep those elbows from hyperextending. Feet go wide, as wide apart as your outstretched arms, so ankles will go underneath your wrist. Nice wide stride between your feet. Knees unlocked, toes turned in. Hands can come behind your back, clasping your hands together. And if you've got good enough balance to hinge forward from here, you can go there. Otherwise, hinge forward first. Find your balance, get your stability. Clasp your hands together behind your back. White knuckle death grip, squeeze tight. Yes, and maybe your hands don't move as far away from your hips as your ego likes, but it is definitely safer for your joints if you keep those elbows from locking out. And it is a more effective shoulder stretch that way too. Head hanging heavy. Hands come to your hips, hands come to your thighs, make a lap, bend your knees, round your back. Come all the way up to standing. Let's turn the right toes out to the right, all 10 toes going to the right. Once again, elbow comes onto your lap. Steer that knee into the direction of the pinky toe. Turn the knee out. Coming into a nice lunge, nice side lunge. Let's let that left arm drop again. And with an inhale, reach and stretch. So we're going for our proper side angle pose now. Pushing into that bottom elbow, lifting out of that bottom shoulder, shoulders away from your ears, lengthening out through that top hand. Palm is flat to the ground, pushing out through the pinky finger, sweeping back through the thumb, turning your chest open towards the sky. Keep steering that bent knee a little wider out to the side. And with an inhale, come all the way up. Leave the legs as is as we turn this into a warrior two. Belly pulled in, shoulders down, chest open. Inhale, fly, lift up. Turn your palms forward, and as you exhale, lunge again. Good. Inhale up. Big expansive chest as you exhale. Warrior two. Inhale, lift up. And exhale. One more time. Great big inhale all the way up. And exhale. Feel those shoulder blades down your back. Nice long, elegant neck, and extending your palms flat towards the ground. Finish by looking over that right hand. And inhale, come all the way up. And release. We're going to spin the feet to go the other direction. All 10 toes turn to the left. Put that left elbow on your lap. Steer the knee open in the direction of the pinky toe. Check that foot. There should be an arch in that foot. Right arm drops. With an inhale, stretch and lengthen and lift up out of those shoulders. So shrug out of that bottom shoulder. Get a nice long side angle pose. Reaching through your pinky finger, sweeping back through the thumb, feeling that big side stretch. Now leave a spiritual elbow on your knee, steering that knee out so you have an arch in that foot. And as you inhale, lift up into your warrior two. Good. We're going to go flying. Inhale, lift up. And exhale, slide. Shoulder blades down your back. Inhale, lift up. And exhale, slide. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, slide. One more time. Big inhale, stretch, lift up. And exhale, slide into that warrior two. Extending your arms out, gazing out over that left hand. Knee is still steering open. And with an inhale, come all the way up. And release. All right, we're going to turn back to the right. All 10 toes pivot to the right. Inhale, both arms up and overhead. Hooking your thumbs together. Tick-tocking your hips side to side. So these are all elements we've done already. We've already prepped this pose. Tick-tocking those hips side to side. Notice it's real easy to kick out that left hip. So go ahead, let that left hip kick out. But at the same time, make sure that right knee is unlocked. Right knee is unlocked, left hip kicks out. As you tip over into your triangle pose, raise your hand if you got this. Right? This top hand is up. Shoulders are down away from your ears. You have a nice long, elegant neck. Bottom hand weighs nothing. Top hand high-fiving an imaginary friend, pulling in your front ribs, pulling in your belly. Breathe. You got this. Easy peasy. And with an inhale, come all the way up. And let's switch, pivot, go to the other side. All 10 toes turn towards the left. Big inhale, both arms up and overhead, hooking your thumbs together, tick-tocking those hips. And yes, kicking that right hip out is much easier. So kick that right hip out, make sure that left knee stays unlocked, and tip over into your triangle pose. Top hand hanging, holding onto the ceiling. Top arm straight up and down. Palm is flat forward like you're high-fiving somebody. Bottom hand weighs nothing. Knee unlocked. It might look straight, but to you, it feels slightly bent. And you're doing your best to keep breathing. And with an inhale, come all the way up. We're going to tick-tock. We're going to switch side to side in this triangle pose. Let's switch back to this first side. And we're going to use that windmilling arm action that we used earlier. So feet turned out, arms up and overhead. Kick out that left hip, tip on over into your triangle pose. Knee unlocked. Hopefully you're looking at the screen because here's the transition. You're going to take this top hand down by the top hip, circle sweep, down, and with an inhale, come all the way up. As you do so, pivot your feet, spin your feet to go the other direction, and tip on over into triangle pose. Knee is unlocked, palm is forward, high-fiving an imaginary friend. All 10 toes are pointing the same direction. Take that top hand by your hip, drop it down, and with an inhale, circle sweep, come all the way up and over, pivot, spin, unstick your feet, and tip over. Triangle pose. Good, we're gonna go a little faster. Down, inhale, circle sweep up and over. Spin those feet, tip over. Good. Circle sweep, inhale up and over and around, tip over. Good. One more time, make it even. Inhale all the way up, circle sweep, and tip over. Fancy, fancy, very nice. All right. And from here, the moment you've all been waiting for, you're gonna round over, step back into your downward facing dog. Come into your downward facing dog. And begin to dance and prance. Bend your knees, pedal your feet, let your hips swing wide, side to side. Unstick your heels, pivot on the balls of your feet, maybe swing both heels to one side, then both heels to the other. Feeling stretch in the calves, the backs of the legs, sides of your hips, side ribs, side body. Take that happy dog for a nice long walk, pedaling your feet and breathing. You might consider transitioning to your other mat so that your hands are facing your screen. Because from downward facing dog, you're going to walk all the way to the very front edge of your mat. And hopefully you find yourself looking forward, the knees bent, and reverse swan dive. Inhale, come all the way up to standing. And exhale, release your arms down by your sides. Palms forward, shoulder shrug, inhale up. Exhale back, head down. Inhale, both arms up and overhead. And exhale down to your sides. Palms forward, shoulder shrug, great big yawn. Inhale up. Exhale back and down. Standing at the front edge of your mat, take a giant step back with your right foot. Go long. Big step back with that right foot. Front knee is bent. Front knee is steering out to the side so that there's an arch in that front foot. Sometimes it helps to take that front foot and turn it out a little bit. Even wiggle that front foot a little wider to the right. That would be to your left for better stability. Back heel, pick it up and stretch the inner back heel straight back. Maybe the back heel doesn't touch down, that's okay. You're gonna angle forward, put both hands on your lap. Steer that knee open, stretch the back heel straight back. Start to dump the pocket change out of that right hip pocket. Good. Arms behind you like a downhill skier. And with an inhale, V for victory, come all the way up. Front ribs and belly pull in. Breathe. Good. Now release your arms down to your sides. And we're going to go flying with an inhale, lift up. Maybe come up onto tippy toes on that back foot. And as you exhale, slide your shoulders, your elbows down your back. Inhale, lift up. And exhale, slide down. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, slide down. Two more. Big inhale, lift up. Exhale, slide down. This time as you inhale, lift up, grab a hold of that lat pull down bar. And as you exhale, engage those latissimus dorsi, those wing-like muscles underneath your armpits. Feel that chest broad. Good. And inhale, come all the way up. Gonna round over. Come on down, step back into your downward facing dog. Can you find those latissimus dorsi, those side rib muscles, those armpit muscles, and wrap them around towards your face? Elbows unlocked, outer armpits wrap around towards your face. Those side rib muscles wrap around towards your chest. And then walk all the way forward to the front edge of your mat. Bend your knees. And with a reverse swan dive, inhale, come all the way back up to standing. And do that on the other side. and exhale, release. So standing at the front edge of your mat, you make sure both feet are on the same surface. You take a giant step back with your left foot, go long. Maybe take that front foot, wiggle it a little bit wider, and turn it out to the side a little bit. I'm angling forward, steering that knee wide. So there's an arch in that front foot, and there's width between my feet, so I have better balance. Inner heel, back inner heel stretches straight back, dumping the pocket change out of my hip pocket. Arms behind, downhill skier. Inhale, sweep up. V for victory. Good. Inhale, come on up. And exhale, pull down. Inhale up. Exhale, pull down. Inhale up. Pull down on those lats, latissimus dorsi. Maybe lunge a little lower. One more time. Big inhale all the way up. And exhale, pull down. Beautiful. So these side rib muscles, you want everything wrapping around to the front of your body, nice and active. As you hinge over, turn this into a downward facing dog with that awareness, that mindfulness, and those side ribs, elbows unlocked, armpits wrapped around toward your face. To keep those elbows from locking out and hyperextending, keep a slight bend in those elbows and engage like you're shoving your thumbs towards one another. You have your elbows unlocked, your thumbs shoving towards one another, those latissimus dorsi, those side rib armpit muscles engaged. You can let your head hang. Let your head really get heavy. Maybe twist your head side to side and you'll get a bit of a neck stretch. So unscrew your head like it's a light bulb, dump your brains out onto the ground. Let go of all your worries and concerns. Let go of some of that stress you carry in your neck and shoulders. And breathe. Bending your knees down to the ground, coming to hands and knees. I'm going to go sideways. You're fine oriented however you want to be for this one. Toes curled under for added toe stretch. Shoulders shrug away from your ears. Shoulders shrug away from your ears. Do a couple shoulder shrugs back and away from your ears. Get those shoulders back and away from your ears. And let your arms plug into socket. Here's my arms in socket. Here's my arms out of socket. In socket, out of socket. I'm keeping my spine neutral. I'm keeping my arms straight, unlocked, but I'm letting my arms plug in and pull out of socket. Arm bones in, shoulders, arm bones pulling out of shoulders. So if you've ever seen nature videos of those lizards out in the desert, same kind of action here. Arms in socket, out of socket, in socket, out of socket, kind of flossing those shoulder joints. It's a funky sensation. Spine is neutral. So you're not really letting your head hang, you're just kind of keeping everything neutral. And let's get even fancier with this. So we're going to find that arm in socket sensation, arm bones in the shoulder joints. Trying to keep those arms plugged into socket as much as possible. You're going to put your elbows down on the ground. Elbows down on the ground. Tuck that bottom pinky finger in, and arms are in socket. Head hangs. You can back your knees up a little bit. Keep your hips directly over your knees. Maybe back your knees up a little bit more. Keep pulling your hips back so your hips stay over your knees, and start to melt your chest down towards the ground. Now your challenge is to keep those arms in socket. They're going to want to pull out of socket, but try keeping them in socket. And there is no good place for your head. You're going to end up with your forehead on the ground. And release. Now, if you have blocks, you're going to repeat. I'm going to put those blocks underneath your elbows. I had 2 blocks at one point. If you have 2 matching blocks, you can use 2 blocks side by side. If you only have, if your blocks don't match, or if you only have 1 block, you're going to take your block on its widest width. Depending on your shoulder flexibility, you might be able to do this with just 1 block. You face the screen for this one. Ultimately, ideally, you're going to be able to get your elbows in narrow and both elbows on the same block, but that might not work for you yet this morning. So start with your palms turned up, tuck your elbows in narrow, your thumbs hitchhike out to the side. Try getting your thumbs out, elbows in, and get your elbows up on the block. Then you can clasp your hands together. Take a moment here, hi chicken, and put those arms in socket. And again, there's no good place for your head. So arms stay in socket as best you can. As you walk your knees back and pull your hips back and keep those arms in socket. Let your chest start to melt. The more you can keep those arms in socket, the more comfortable this is for your shoulders. And the more effective the stretch is. Yoga, we're always trying to balance strength and flexibility. So it does require a modicum of strength to keep those arms in socket as you stretch. And then pull that front rib, pull your belly up into your body and crawl forward and bail out. We're going to go for our dolphin dog. So I'm removing the blocks here. I'm going to go sideways once again. You can orient however you like for this one. In the dolphin dog, again, I do highly recommend keeping those arms in socket. So arm bones are in socket in your dolphin pose. Elbows go as narrow as you can get them. So my thumbs are pointing out to the side. I'm getting my elbows in as narrow as I can. And when I put my elbows down, I feel that elbow skin. I try sticking the elbow skin wide, but keeping my elbows narrow. So elbows narrow, and then I stick the elbow skin wide, clasp my hands together, bottoms up into that dolphin dog. And I'm trying to keep those arms in socket. My knees are bent, heels are lifted, coming into that dolphin dog with arms in socket. If you were to stretch your arms out of socket, you could potentially really screw up your shoulders. So keep your arms in socket to keep your shoulder joints safe in this pose. And it is a challenge to just kind of settle in. Arm bones in socket. It takes work to do that. And again, there's no good place for your head. And the knees bent, come on down. Whew. Now, whatever clasp of the hands you just did, that's your natural normal clasp. Take your hands, reweave your fingers so that the other index finger is on top. It should feel funky. Put the other index finger on top, which means the other pinky finger tucks in. I'm gonna repeat, same thing, different clasp of the hands. It should feel funky. Elbows narrow, elbow skin sticks wide, shoulders are down your back and in socket, and there's no good place for your head. And then turning this into your dolphin dog. Heels lifted, knees bent, arms in socket. Breathing. And then knees bend all the way down to the ground. Pull in those front ribs, pull in that belly, and come back up to hands and knees. On hands and knees, you might have a pillow underneath your knees because the floor can be kind of hard. From hands and knees, maybe with your toes curled under, so you get that added toe stretch. Begin with an inhale, head up, tail up. And exhale, press your breath out, pull your belly in, arch your back. Inhale, head up, tail up, coming into your cow. And exhaling for cat. Moving back and forth through cat and cow. So today's request was for shoulders, and I got more for you. We're going to be doing cat and cow, and we're going to engage the shoulders, the arms, a little bit more with our cat and cow. So usually generic beginner version of cat and cow, you're not really doing anything with the arms. But let's kick it up another level. Have a look at this. Here I am showing you my elbows. You can see my elbow pit, you can see my veins, you can see my points of my elbows. Here I'm showing you my elbow pits and my points, and my pits and my points and my pits and my points and my pits and my points. So I can rotate my arms, my elbows, without moving my hands. Notice my hands aren't going anywhere as I do pits and points and pits and points and pits and points. On hands and knees as I move through my cat and cow. As I exhale into my cat pose, I'm going to show you my elbow points, the points of my elbows. And my shoulders are going to hike up around my ears. And as I inhale, come into my cow, I'm going to show you my elbow pits. My shoulders are going to pull away from my ears. Exhale for cat, points. Inhale for cow, pits. So join me for some pits and points in your cat and cow. And again, patting underneath your knees if you like. Inhaling for cow, show me your pits. Exhaling for cat, show me your points. And as you inhale, coming into that cow, your shoulders move away from your ears. And as you exhale, come into that cat, your shoulders hike up around your ears like a Halloween cat. Keep moving, pits and points, cat and cow. So as you're moving back and forth through cat and cow, hopefully your arms are in socket the entire time. Arms are in socket, and we're adding another element here, that twist of the elbow pits, the twist of the upper arm bones in the shoulder joint. Guess what we're going to do with that? We're going to incorporate that into our dolphin pose, taking the dolphin pose to the next level. Again, if you have 2 blocks, now doesn't matter if they match or not, but you're going to need 2 blocks for this one. We're going to add in that element of rotation, those arm bones twisting in the shoulder joint. Arms are going to be in socket, elbows go narrow. You don't get to clasp your hands together because we're going to rotate those arm bones so your thumbs point out to the sides. So this is where the second block comes in handy. We're going to take those arms, elbows narrow, put my elbows in as narrow as they can go on the block. My thumbs are pointing out to the side, so I'm rotating those arm bones. And then that block, second block, goes between your pinky fingers. You're going to show me the backs of your hands. Block is between your pinky fingers. Thumbs pointing out to the sides. Arms are in socket, so there is really no good place for your head. You end up with your face resting on your forearms. And you crawl those knees backward, and you melt your heart. And you get even more stretch in those shoulders. Fingers point towards the sky. Pinky fingers holding onto that block. Arms are in socket. That arms in socket part, for me personally, is one of the more challenging aspects of this pose. Arms in socket. And then pull up those front ribs, pull in your belly, and come on out. Oh, take a couple of good shoulder shrugs. Oh, all kinds of stuff going on in those shoulders. Now to turn this into a more formal Pincha Mayurasana prep, I'm going to remove one of those blocks. I'm going to be putting my elbows down on the ground, and I'm going to be putting the backs of my hands down on the ground. I want to get those arm bones to rotate in the shoulder joints as much as possible. And those arms are in socket as much as possible. So I'm going to show you a couple different angles on this one. I'm going to put that pinky fingers on either side of the block. My elbows go in narrow. So I tuck those elbows in narrow. I stick the elbow skin wide. Pinky fingers along the edge of the block. So my elbows are down on the ground. Arms are in socket. Thumbs pushing out to the sides, maximum rotation in those arms. Arms in socket, head hanging, and then bottoms up. This is where having a yoga mat is really nice because it keeps you from sliding across the floor. You do want both hands, both elbows, both feet on the same surface. Arms in socket, knees bent, hips high, heels high, head hanging. Really let your head hang. Hang out there, keep breathing. If you need to come on down to have a quick look, take a quick break. I'm changing the angle on this one. I've got my knees bent, my heels lifted, my arms are in socket, my head is hanging. big shoulder stretch. Really feeling that upper trapezius, the base of the skull to the very tops of the shoulders across the upper back. That's receiving a lovely stretch. If you happen to be tight there. And then bend your knees, come on down. Oh. So again, just to be clear, the upper trapezius is this stuff. Remember doing this stretch earlier at the beginning of class? This area. If you have your arms in socket, arms rotated, head hanging heavy, getting a lovely bilateral, both sides, upper trapezius stretch in that pose. One more time. Do it for the children. Oh, really loosen up neck and shoulders, maybe wiggle your jaw. And come up into that Pincha Mayurasana prep. And with your head hanging, I challenge you to dump your brains out onto the ground, to yawn, to wiggle your jaw, stretch your face. Big lion-like yawns. Elbows go narrow. Pinky fingers on either side of the blocks. Palms are up. Shoulders in socket or arms in shoulder socket, head hanging heavy. Let your head be very, very heavy. Knees are bent, heels lifted, perky butt. Twisting your head, wiggling your jaw, yawning. Now remember those latissimus dorsi, those tickle muscles, your front ribs. Pull in those front ribs a little bit to keep your chest from collapsing. There's the seesaw, there's the balance. Can you pull in your front ribs? Not let your chest collapse, but at the same time, keep those arms plugged into the shoulder joint. Finding that balance. Arms in socket, front ribs pulled away from the floor. Arms in socket, head hanging, front ribs pulling away from the ground. Keep working that. Finding that balance between those two opposites. Finding the yoga in the pose. And then come on down. Oh. Lovely. Palms forward. Good shoulder shrug. Good yawn. Nice long, lovely neck. I'm going to turn my back to you. You can sit any way you like. You can sit back on your heels. You can sit flat on your butt. You can sit on a couple blocks. It doesn't much matter. Sit any way you like. Turn your palms forward. Do a couple good shoulder shrugs. Inhale up. Exhale back and down. Repeat. A couple more shoulder shrugs. Big yawns. Up, back, and down. And maybe, just maybe, we've loosened up the shoulders enough that you can bring your palms together behind your back and go for a nice reverse namaste. Super fancy. Front ribs and belly pull in. Nice, long, elegant neck. Breathing. Front ribs and belly pull in. And then release. And you can fan your fingers, roll out your wrists. All right, we're going to make our way down to the ground for the grand finale, which is a nice bridge pose. You know, with full back bend, you could go for full back bend. Your shoulders are amply prepped for that. Haven't really done much for the quads though, so you're not going to get your most expansive open hip version of your bridge pose or back bend, but you're going to get a good, nice chest opening variation. If you have a couple of blocks, you can also use those blocks to help support your hips. Lie down. Nothing underneath your head. Knees bent, feet flat. If you're using a block or two, have that handy, ready to go. With knees bent, feet flat, keep your legs narrow. Pull in your front ribs, pull in your belly. Heel your hips up off the ground. And you might consider taking a block or two, tucking it underneath your bottom, just to hold that lower body in place. Again, the lower body isn't really much prepped for this, but the upper body definitely is. So supporting your hips on blocks, totally valid right now. Take that upper body, take your thumbs, hitchhike your thumbs out to the side and shrug those shoulders underneath. Really tuck those shoulder blades in narrow as much as you can. Maximum rotation in those arms. Get those elbows in narrow and push the thumb side of the elbow down so your chest really puffs out. And then find your front ribs. Tuck in those front ribs a little bit. Pushing thumbs down, squeezing shoulder blades even tighter, closer together. Big, expansive, chesty breaths. I caution against clasping your hands together. If you hold your hands, clasp your hands together underneath your body, there is a tendency to hyperextend and lock out those elbows, which is not good for your joints. So I counsel against holding hands, clasping hands. In fact, think about bending those elbows and pushing the thumb side of the elbow down into the ground a little bit more, get even more expansiveness in the chest, big puffy chest. And then widen your shoulders. Lift your hips up just enough to remove the block and come on down. Lovely. Now to open up the front of the hips a little bit more, if you do have a block, you're going to take that block on the low level. Knees bent, feet flat, push into your feet, pelvic thrust, peel your hips up, take that low level block underneath your booty butt, wide width, below the belt, underneath your hips. Find those front ribs, tuck them in a little bit. And then power one leg straight, pushing out through the inner heel, feeling that stretch through the front of the hip. Front ribs are tucked in the entire time. So I'm sending energy down through the inner heel of this extended leg, keeping my front ribs and belly pulled in, feeling that stretch in the front of the hip flexor. And soften and switch. Power the other leg straight, pressing through the inner heel, keeping your front ribs and belly pulled in nice and tight. Legs are narrow. And release. You did one leg, you did the other leg. Now you have the option of doing one leg, two legs, both legs at the same time, keeping those front ribs, belly pulled in nice and tight. And then soften, bending one knee at a time, putting both feet flat. Lifting your hips up just enough to remove the block, and then come on down and stretch out nice and long. Find your breath. Let it move slowly in and out through your nose.